Hey, welcome. Welcome to Occam's Razor. This is Blazing Cat for Fridays, where we do a cold read-through of the best news aggregate for people who think just like me. I'd like to thank BCF for posting these live streams and for his tireless commitment to publishing a site every day for going on close to 20 years. Did you know that he has a news feed? Yes, he does. For when you just can't wait for the BCF post to tell you what's going on in this crazy world. And if you'd like to help this veteran out, please follow me on Rumble and please leave a comment. I'd love to read what you people have to say. And did you know that we have a Butch Cam? Butch Cam, where they were? There we go, Butch Cam right down here. Um, for a limited time. A little Butch Cam on the tough little sunflower. Of course, it's not broadcasting right now because we can only broadcast one stream at a time. So let's go to BCF. Do a quick refresh. And here we have Canadians feel unwelcome in the US as mistrust remains high, says new poll. Oops. There we go. Orcas. Oh, go back to the story. Now that Canada's trade war with America has surged back into public consciousness like a blast from the past, a new poll suggests Canadian frustration with and mistrust of the U.S. remains high despite a slight easing. In March, for example, polling showed a dramatic realignment of Canadian attitudes towards its southern neighbor. Europe and Britain were suddenly the countries Canadians felt best about. The Canadians were starting to feel about America the way they felt about Russia. The only thing I can say about this is that Canadians are being manipulated into feeling what their masters want them to feel, just like they felt for elbows up at the last election. And what did they get for that? Hmm. Orcas bring food gifts to humans in puzzling acts of kindness. Well, I wonder if these are the same orcas that are taking out rudders out in the West Coast. Dozens of cases of wild orcas bringing fish and birds to humans have been documented. Are they trying to make friends, or do they hope to manipulate us? Humans have long considered themselves nature's great benefactors. We feed ducks in the parks, toss scraps to alley cats, and leave out bowls of milk for the neighborhood hedgehog. We give, they take. That, at least, is how the story usually goes. But could one of the world's most intelligent predators be turning the tables? Hmm. Perhaps it's what a lot of people have been calling about a new frequency occurring throughout the planet where people are starting to interconnect more and the animals are doing the same. Have you noticed your dog seemingly more intent and paying more attention to you? Almost like he can read your mind? Hmm. What the foxtrot? On today's episode of Road Safety. Well, let's have a look.
حبيبي يا تقول لي امي قد قد يا بس ما تقول لي امي قد قد يا
This works better when I put the mic on. New supply management law won't save the system from Trump, experts say. A new law meant to protect supply management might not be enough to shield the system in trade talks with the Trump administrator bent on eliminating it, trade experts say. It's certainly more difficult to strike a deal with the United States now with the passage of this bill that basically forces Canada to negotiate with one hand tied behind its back, said William Pellerin, a trade lawyer and partner with the firm Macmillan LLP. Now that we've removed the digital service tax, dairy and supply management is probably the number one trade irritant that we have in the United States. Remains very much unresolved. Well, the United States are going to realign trade in North America, whether Canadians like it or not. We are, what, less than 1/10 of the population? They are the big kids on the block. What they dictate, what they allow us to have, is what is going to happen, especially in the last 10 years of liberal mismanagement of our economy. We have no strength. We have no basic economy for us to fall back on. And this last minute trying to trade negotiations with Europe, and trying to build up something there over the pond logistically, not going to help us. Besides, they want our resources even more than the Americans do. Christ mocking queer DJ honored with high decoration by French culture minister. Is that our French culture minister or the French French? It looks like the French French. French culture minister Rachida Dati has awarded DJ Barbara Butch the Chevalier des Arts de les Lettres decoration. In case you have never heard of this person, well, she made the headlines when during the opening ceremony of the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris, she appeared in a parody of Christ mocking during a mock Last Supper scene. Yay. Well, lefties championing lefties, I guess. How Trump's EV policy reversal could reshape Canada's mandates. Let's hope. This disastrous EV mandate is just ridiculous. The Canadian government has made electric vehicles EV a priority over the last few years, with sizable funding for battery factories, a rebate program to improve affordability, and a mandate to phase out the purchase of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. But with some U.S. governments signing resolutions blocking a similar EV mandate in California with some 17 other states, coupled with the continued issues related to affordability, Ottawa's plan could be facing increased obstacles. Well, we all know what the EVs are for. They want to trap us where we are, not give us the ability of freedom of movement in a country that requires a vehicle in the wintertime that can keep us warm, minus 40, and be able to travel 12 hours in a day and then refuel shortly and do it all over again in case you wanted to, travel cross country. But they don't want you to do that. They want to trap you in a 15-minute city on a battery charge. A trickle will probably take a full week just to charge your car the way the grid is laid out right now. And you wouldn't even be able to afford the vehicle anyway. Too bloody expensive. It's a disaster. And there's no charging infrastructure. What are they thinking? NATO defense pledge will fuel huge annual deficits averaging 77.7 billion, report says. Oh, yeah. Well, we've covered this before. They can spend all they want, but they don't have any troops. Put in the boots. Election promises and a massive defense spending increase promised by Prime Minister Mark Carney at NATO summit last month will fuel huge annual federal budget deficits, averaging more than 77 billion a year, says a new report predicts. A fiscal forecast released by the C.D. Howe Institute Thursday said that the combined cost of Liberal Party election platforms pledges plus a June 25 commitment by Canada to boost military expenditures by as much as $90 billion each year will drive Ottawa deeper in the red. And well, again, they're not buying decent rucksacks, they're not buying decent fart bags for the guys to sleep in. They just bought what some rifles for the Rangers that are bleeding dye into their hands because nobody did some quality check, and the company they bought them from is like, oh, sorry, we can't do anything about that. See you later, bye. Yes, these are the kinds of purchases that we can expect from this government. They're a disaster, a complete disaster. And besides, like I said, no troops in the boots. 40% total effective strength and dropping. And for those of you who don't know what total effective strength is, a total effective strength number is each troop in your unit that is up to date on everything and ready for deployment. That means everything. That means including CDS Directive 003, which requires you to have 3 jibby jabs. Now, if you don't have the jibby jabs, then you are a second-class soldier, and then you can only go on certain deployments, the one that don't require the jibby jab, which who knows what that is. I mean, the CDS Directive is there to ensure that everybody gets it. And obviously, with a 40% total effective strength and dropping, a rate of obesity in the armed forces never seen before. I, maybe that's part of the reason why there's like 40% and dropping. And why are so many fat people in the armed forces right now? Is it because of the new cultural Marxist indoctrination where everybody can just be a victim and point to somebody who says, oh, he spoke to me badly and then yell at me to go for a run. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the medical infirmary room and get a chit and then go hide in my room for 2 weeks with a headache. Maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. Could be wrong. What the grooming gang's inquiry needs to ask. Oh, yes. Well, thank you, Tommy Robinson, for continuing to bash on this situation for 15 years. The role of culture, ethnicity, and religion must not be brushed under the carpet. Well, we've been doing that for quite a long time. Keir Starmer, Kutirkir was left with no choice but to to a national statutory inquiry into the grooming gang scandal. Following the publication of Louise Casey's damning national audit last month, this inquiry is long overdue, and it is vital that no stone is left unturned in the search for truth. The earlier reluctance to even hold an inquiry was undoubtedly due to the racial sensitivity involved. The UK Prime Minister and much of the establishment have long been unwilling to acknowledge the backgrounds of many of the perpetrators, but Casey's report surely points to a pattern that no inquiry can ignore. You've been ignoring it for decades. Why not ignore it for another decade? Mass deportations is the only issue. Indeed, is it not across the West? How Western politicians over the last decade have systematically inundated each of their countries with uncontrolled mass immigration, unvetted mass immigration, and they've relaxed the rules to allow a lot more people into their country. It's interesting how that all just seemed to happen at the same time. Zoran Madani is probably going to be the mayor of New York. Madani was born in Uganda to a Marxist academic, becoming a U.S. citizen only in 2018. He effortlessly switches between a bobblehead Indian accent, a multiculti South African Ali G, and the flat, respectable broadcast American that he now campaigns on. He got married this year, so he can be definitely officially not gay for the 0.5% of over 65 New York Democrats for whom that still matters. Well, um, I, New York, New York, I love you, but you're bringing me down. Sami Doohan exposes failures in Canada's anti-terror efforts. On October 15, 2024, Canada finally added Sami Doohan to its list of terrorist entities under the Criminal Code. Many observers had long called for this important step given the group's well-documented ties to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, the PFLP, a terrorist organization listed in Canada since 2003. 22 years. The designation came only after mounting public pressure and disturbing events, including a Vancouver rally in which Semidoux affiliated demonstrators chanted, Canada! And burned our national flag. Why? Because most of the LPC caucus approves. That's right, Liberals see nodding in approval. Yes, burn those flags. Let them hate Canada. We must change Canada. Canada is racist. Everything about Canada we hate. We must change it all. Let's change the words to the national anthem again. The real reason Americans hate the media. Okay, it's now taken as settled science that the media largely, and this is professionally expert term, sucks. The reasons for that are well known and also settled, accepted science. Who would dare be a science denier? The media suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. They hate America and Americans, and they're among the self-imagined elite who think themselves better than everyone else. They're not. They're mostly white, but think white people racist. They're congenital liars and have no idea what a sincere apology might be. Actually, they're pretty clueless on the whole sincerity thing. They're the propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, yet some of them weakly continue to deny that. Well, that sounds like I were talking about the CBC in Canada, except, replace Democrats for liberals, or Global News, or CTV News. Or any of the major publications like the Globe and Pale. I mean, the Globe and Pale. You know what I mean. Frail Pale. The government-funded media. Globe. Why we should broadcast hate. Indeed, people need to hear hate so that they understand it, so that they know who these people are. If you hide the hate, then you don't know who these hateful people are. And they become normal in society. The 2025 Glastonbury Festival came to a close on Sunday, and tired bodies with sore heads have packed their tents and trudged home knowing that they have to wait 2 years until the next festival. Next year, the festival will take a follow year. The music festival takes a break every 5 years to give the land a worthy farm time to rest and to give the cows some extended peace and quiet. I'm sure we haven't touched here on what they're talking about, but there's an old thing about every time wanting to protect people from hate, it's the design is always the same. Censorship, only increases more censorship and hides the truth. And then people just end up losing their minds and governments fall and people die. It's always the same thing. History repeats itself. You try to control power too much, you don't share it around, you don't let people express their feelings when they need to, by branding it hateful speech or whatever, and then they don't have no place to vent. Next thing you know, they're venting on you. Nothing was ready inside Canada's vaccine injury support program. No kidding. I see Global put out a story this week. The Overton window has finally started to shift when, talking about the story, but they're still not really talking too much about all the dying, right? They're still not talking about how doctors couldn't even get uh, vaccine injuries recorded through their own supervisors and they were being blocked at the hospitals. So we know even in Canada, many of the injuries couldn't be actually recorded. And in many cases, we know in vaccine injury support program, even with doctors saying, yes, this person was injured by your injection, it goes to their board for review, and then the board sits on it for a year or 2 years, and then they come back with a decision that yea or nay. We agree or don't disagree. And then you have no way to appeal. And you try to contact somebody and you can't contact anybody. And we know for over 6 months, it takes over a year just for a caseworker to get to you. Oh, the entire thing is a disaster. And what, they spent 80% of their money on administration? Oh, we've run out of money. Yes, we've been administering, stringing people along and not giving them benefits. Benefits? It's not a benefit. There's no benefit to getting a payment for being injured. It's compensation. A $50 million program the federal government created to help Canadians seriously injured by COVID-19 vaccine is in disarray, current and former staffers say. The Vaccine Injury Support Program, created during the pandemic, was designed to compensate people who have been seriously and permanently injured by any Health Canada authorized vaccine administered in Canada on or after December 8, 2020. And this is their advertisement. I got to remind everybody, don't join the Canadian Armed Forces. They want you to take 3 jabs. And then when you take 3 jabs, and if you get injured, they're not going to adhere to their duty of care, which is in policy. They're just going to refer you to this outside vaccine injury support program. Yes, just the kind of country I want to sign up for. Kathy Griffin looks unrecognizable as she steps out in LA after anti-Trump TikTok drama. Well, that's why you have makeup in Hollywood. I mean, it could be the lighting. She could be having a bad hair day. I mean, I've had bad hair. I wish I had this kind of bad hair. Look at the size of that fleek. Wow, that's a lot of hair. Kathy Griffin looked nearly unrecognizable as she stepped out in Los Angeles this week amid backlash over her recent anti-Trump TikTok post. The comedian, 64, was spotted enjoying a walk with a male friend near her $8.8 million Malibu home on Tuesday, July 1st. Griffin was noticeably makeup-free, and her flaming red hair looked wild as it blew around the breeze. Yes, it's just like reading something on the magazine rack at the grocery store. Greta, the poster child for progressive contradictions. Oh, Greta. How dare you? Fresh from her attempt to invade Gaza by boat and getting deported by the Israeli Defense Forces for her efforts last month, Swedish political activist Greta Thunberg showed up in Budapest on June 26 to back the global LGBT intifada. Today, I joined thousands of people in the streets of Budapest, Hungary, where Orban, in a desperate attempt, banned the Pride March, she announced on Instagram. It's another fascist attack on human rights. Pride is both protest but also a celebration of love and who we are. Fascists will never be able to ban love. If she'd made it to Gaza, she would have found out otherwise. Oh, indeed. It's really unfortunate that people with mental illness are given such platforms. And here we are at the end of the first page, and we only do the first page here on Blazing Cat for Fridays. Thank you for hanging out to the end. If you watched to the very end, again, we would ask you to go to Rumble, follow us there, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear what you had. Oops, we'd love to hear what you have to say. And until next week, we'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget to check